Good morning, everyone. My name is Juana Amaria, and I'm the Business Services Coordinator with Illinois WorkNet. And we are starting our last session for our April social media webinar. So welcome. We're going to, someone is saying that they can't hear. I think maybe you should check your speakers if you're doing it via the web broadcast, and make sure your speakers are on. If you're doing it via the conference call number, make sure your speakers are off because you're going to get a lot of playback. So thank you so much, Dee. She's handling it in every possible way. So yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to go through a couple of different housekeeping items here. If you've noticed, depending on if you join our webinars often, there's a couple of different things going on. One, underneath the PowerPoint, you have a chat pod where we've all been chatting away. Really great to know, or the questions that you're plugging in. So highly encourage you to put all of that stuff in there, especially if you're in via the web broadcast, because we won't be able to talk to you any other way. Also, for those of you that need to have the physical documents in hand, all these file shares underneath the PowerPoint, you could actually just click on the file and select and then download to your computer, so you can print all of that stuff out. I've also sent it within the reminder email. Now, to the right of the PowerPoint, you'll notice that you have a couple of polling pots, and this is for us. Doorbell off. And this is just to capture, to see where, to kind of gauge where everyone is at within their social media interactions, and just what you use and who you use it for and your interests. And this way, we're kind of growing and building together. So we have a good way of gauging, who we're interacting with. So thank you so much for joining us. And with that said, I'm going to move on to the presentation. What I'd like to do first of all, though, before we actually move on, is there's a little guy on your left-hand side underneath your chat pod, and it has a raised hand, and I'd like you to raise your hands if you can hear me. Let's just do a sound check very quickly. So Simon says, raise your hands. Good job. A couple people aren't raising their hands. Maybe, there we go. Everybody's up. So everybody put your hands down so you can clear your screen, so that I don't have to decline everybody. And you'll notice there's a couple of different features, so please let us know if, for instance, you want us to speak softer or slow down. Sometimes they get very excited and start talking really fast. If you agree, disagree, you can clap, you can laugh. So thank you so much, Michael. He's clapping. So definitely play with that and see, and Zoya's clapping, and see, the different options available with you and this webinar. So,
Danielle, do you still have a question?
if you have a question, please put it in the chat pod so that we could address it as we're going along, unless you're just stuck with your hand up, and then I could clear you. So, okay, with that said, I'm going to move on to our webinar. So thank you so much and welcome. There we go. So one of the things that I wanted to mention is that we are tweeting this live, and Dee will mention and kind of go through what that means. But let's get on to the audio options. So for those of you that are joining via phone, you could actually do *# when we open the floor for questions if you want to ask through the phone. For those of you that are joining via the webinar, you can just put it in the chat box and we'll read through your questions. And both work well. People prefer one or the other. We like to include both options. And so for today's agenda, we're going to go through some introductions and tools and features with the social media page and with the webinar in general. Do an overview of last month's webinar on social media tools and give you a recap. Do an overview and then get straight away into our different topics for today. Also, to keep in mind that next month in May we'll have our last webinar, and that's based on managing your social media image. And we've built up so much momentum, and we're going through and through. And so it's really good for you now to kind of understand how to manage all of that, I'm sure many of you are just overwhelmed and wondering, like, okay, Juana, you made me open all these profiles. Now what am I going to do with them? So just to give you an idea, we're going to whet your appetite for tools and products available to manage your social media um, network. So with that said, I'm going to move on to my introductions, and I'd really just love to welcome Dee. She is Dee Reinhardt from KCDE, and she's just really great to be on, and she's joined us for the past couple webinars, and we're very fortunate. She's a total whiz. She's got the stuff down. She's going to be tweeting live as we're going along through the webinar, and so I'd like to welcome her and thank her so much for coming. And Dee, would you like to tell them what that means to tweet live?
Well, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter as KCDEE5 and my own name. And what I'm doing is I'm sending out little tweets, and if you're familiar with Twitter, it's 140 characters at the most, and we're tweeting under hashtag, which is the number sign, workNet, which you can see right, well, here.
There you go.
and we'll look at that a little bit later when we do our live demonstration.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dee. And Michael, to answer your question, and I'm actually going to go through it right now, so great question to transition into our next slide. So all of the webinars, the previous webinars, along with all the different documents that we send you, are available on the portal. And so if you go to illinoisworknet.com and click on the Businesses Pathway, we have a social media page set up. And so you'll notice they're organized in consequent order, and so you'll go through and see everything from the summaries to the PDFs to the PowerPoints, as well as the archived videos. And so those videos you could actually share with your staff. For those of you that are workforce professionals and couldn't make it to the different webinars, it's no problem, literally. The only disadvantage that you'd have is that you don't get to participate like all the cool people on this webinar get to talk to us and include their questions in the chat. So click on Develop and click on the social media page. And you can also do that off of the home page. So just to give you a heads up on that. Another thing I wanted to encourage, if you've never been on our webinars, they're very interactive, and I would love for you to be able to take that offline and continue that within our forums. And this is a great way to encourage collaboration because a lot of us are doing the same stuff. Why reinvent the wheel when you can get great ideas, and maybe some people have best practices that they'd like to share. And so we put things on there all the time, and this is a great way to kind of continue the conversation. So I wanted to point those things out. And also, if you're curious as to the data we've captured through the previous webinars, we have webinar summaries where we take all these polling questions in the chats and we put them up there. So if you think that maybe today went too fast or you couldn't read through all of this stuff, it's all available online so that you can have it. And we're very big on sharing everything. So if you think you heard something cool or you read something cool, it'll be available online once we're completing this series. So with that said, today's webinar is called More Than Tweeting, and some of you may be brand new to this, and you're thinking, what is that? What is tweeting? And that's the microblogging with Twitter. And what I'd like to do is just really focus on enabling individuals to, kind of up their game in either searching for a job or posting jobs for the different businesses or organizations you work for, and some of the different options that are available for you. And so we'll go through step by step and show you how individuals and employers can connect, give you some information and resources on the third-party social media tools available, and then kind of give you an overview of what next month's webinar is, as I mentioned, on, okay, now that you have all this stuff going on, you're building your personal brand, how do you manage all of that stuff? So with that said, for those of you that are not quite clear what we mean by social media, we're referring to the wide variety of online tools. This is all about mass interaction, collaboration, communicating on the fly. It's all about real time. None of this is static anymore. And so although it's overwhelming, I'm sure, for many, many people to even fathom how you're going to grasp all of this stuff and keep up, it's just not, this is not something that we can ignore. It's no longer something that we can afford, because first of all, it's free and it costs your time more than anything, but you can afford to not learn to do, and especially when the rest of the world is really on this page now. So with that said, I'd like to get started. So the way we have today's webinar organized is we're going to go through personal branding, then how to get your next job, and then the different options on Twitter.
I just love that little Twitter guy.
Isn't he great?
Yes.
I like to encourage as much humor as possible throughout these things. So with personal branding, what we wanted to focus most on is how do you use social media, to really up your game, to give you the competitive edge. And so with the following personal branding process that we've put together for you, it really gets you thinking as to, what foot am I putting forward? What kind of face am I trying to show? What kind of brand am I trying to build within the social world that we have now online? So with that said, what we've done is actually created a page on Illinois WorkNet. If you go onto the individual's pathway and you click on jobs, there's a personal networking page, and it includes all of this information. So the first part of that is figure out who you are, right? And the way I like to say this is, who do you want to be when you grow up, And we've included some information, for instance, a personal information worksheet. There's different transferable skills, workplace skills and interests, tools on there that you can take. It's kind of like a personality test, and you find out what are you interested in. And then once you figure out that interest, you can explore job information and start writing your personal mission, or start developing what I like to call your toolkit. And so with that, we've also included something called How to Discover and Create Your Brand 101. And so with point 2, once you've discovered it, and other webinars have talked and talked, I felt like we've beat this dead horse of LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, and we've created these really great guides to walk people through how to create these profiles. And so with step 2 is, now that you've got an idea of who you want to be, this is how you get started. And then with step 3, updating your social media profiles, it's about communicating. So now that you've got this brand, yes, Michael, they will not be going away. They're on there permanently. So now that you've got this brand created, how are you communicating it? How are you promoting it? And actually a really great plug for that is through the LinkedIn guide that we've created, and it really talks about how you can promote yourself and promote your brand within your existing network of people you already know. And then the fourth part that you can't really see, and Dee will kind of touch on this, is how do you monitor your brand, right? Now that you're out there in the world, how do people see you? And so there's some tools that will help you kind of gauge all of that, if you want to join in on that, Dee.
The top 10 free tools for monitoring your brand's reputation is from Mashable. Why reinvent the wheel when you can get all of these resources out there from someplace else? Lana and I are big fans of using what's there, and one of those tools is called Alltop, and I actually did Alltop and checked it out for KCDEE. And what Alltop does is it shows you where you're showing up on the different search streams. So for example, I did Alltop and did KCDEE, and KCDEE filled up the first 3 pages because I'm all over it with LinkedIn, web pages, Google, Twitter, all of that stuff. I've got it happening for KCDE. But then my husband and I have a construction company, and I'm not so good with that for the construction company because I just showed up on the first page. I personally showed up on the first page with my company in my LinkedIn profile. Otherwise, I flipped back to pages 3 and 4. But if you go to alltop.com and put in whatever you want to check, then you can find out what you need to do to up your game. And I'd like to answer M.E. Rivera's question. If you go to the previous webinars that we talked about, Juana has said that Facebook is a little bit more personal, LinkedIn is a little bit more professional, and then you can marry the two by doing several profiles on Twitter, which we'll show you a little bit later.
Right. And also to give you an idea, for instance, and we've mentioned this before for those that are joining us, think of Facebook as the online cocktail party, right? And think of LinkedIn as your online Rolodex. And that really puts it in perspective because, um, with LinkedIn, it's literally your resume online. And so you're interacting with people through what you know and what you do and what you've learned. And with Facebook, it's more, it's more like the extracurricular activities, the after-school activities. And so it's a good way to kind of think of it in that term. So very good. Thank you so much, Dee,
You're
for
welcome.
giving us that tip. So, and with that said, what we've done is created this activity sheet or guide where it walks you through building your personal brand, and what I like to call it is your toolkit. And so what I've put here is what is in your toolbox, and what I mean by that is as you're developing your personal brand, there's a lot of different options, and we've kind of put together a list of things that you should have ready to go, right? Because a lot of times you may get a call and say, "Oh, well, can you meet me for coffee? For this like networking interview," and you want to have these things on hand, ready to go, and that's what's going to get you ahead, especially within this economy. And something I forgot to mention earlier, but a lot of people don't realize that it's not, especially with how competitive it is now, it's just not the same to go and post your resume somewhere and flood people's emails. Sometimes jobs aren't listed or available or they've never existed in the first place. And there's actually many studies that have noted that 80% of jobs are taken through networking. But few have sought to use the web to search and locate people that they would actually enjoy working with or working for that company. So something to keep in mind as to the value of some of these resources. So the first one I have is business cards, and it kind of, there's digital business cards for those of you that are super savvy, but highly recommend that whether you're a college student or a professional, you definitely want to have a way where people can contact you and list how they can reach you. The second part is the resume and cover letter, and something I really want to plug is that Illinois WorkNet actually has a resume builder, so you can put all of your information on there. We even have resources for different resume samples, even for youth, for those that are in high school, for instance, that haven't graduated. What should your resume look like? What kind of credentials should you post? For those of you that are within the graphics design and artsier industries where you can get a portfolio and put it online, right? So you want to be able to show your work and showcase what you've done and your accomplishments. The other part, and Dee will definitely give you a good example for this, is to start your own blog and really get yourself out there as who you are and what you know and the things that you're interested in. And I don't know if you want to jump in on that one, Dee.
Well, on blogging, it lets you express yourself. It lets you show your expertise. It lets you um, tell people who you are and how you write it. So if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to promote your business, if you're looking to gain more business or sell yourself as a contractor to someone, write what you do. Write about what you do. Make sure that your blog is a little bit more focused. If you need to have 2 or 3 blogs, do 2 or 3 blogs, because if you want one for personal items that you can just talk about your dog or your golf or whatever, do that, but then keep your business blog business focused. One of the things that I noticed, and I'm jumping ahead here just a hair, on the bottom of this slide it has about job fairs dressing for success, and that's from our blog, from KCDEE's blog. I was at a huge job fair that was sponsored by Waubonsee Community College, and I saw people there dressed in baseball caps and sneakers. And then I saw other people that were dressed there ready to interview in suits, professional attire. So I wrote about that on that blog. So if you want to if you want to read a little bit about it, you can.
And really the biggest part of this is blogs have a stronger asset to those that have them because they rank higher in searches. And so we all know, and we'll go through the stats on this, but if you're applying for a job or people are considering you, they're going to Google you and find out who you are and find out what comes up. And so you definitely want to make sure that you know yourself, and we'll go through that. We have a whole slide on that. But you can start your own blog, for instance, at blogger.com or WordPress.net. And as Dee mentioned, talk about the stuff that you're interested in and write about or comment on other people's stuff. That comes up as well. And so at least start playing and seeing what your options are. The other
Yes.
things are the social media profiles, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. All of that is on our third session in our previous webinar, so I encourage you to just check that out. We did a whole workshop on LinkedIn, and so there's videos on there that you can, if you don't want to read, people don't like to read these days, you can just watch the video. They'll walk you through it. So lots of resources for you out there. Also, the other thing, beyond, wardrobe, because Dee mentioned that, is a lot of people are doing YouTube video resumes, and it's very interesting. Some of them are great, and some of them are not so great. But it's such a great way to differentiate yourself. So, for instance, what we recommended in the previous webinar was to give yourself, from 1 to 2 minutes most, and think of it as your elevator speech, right? You're giving your pitch to this individual as to why you're the perfect candidate. And so this is a way for you to just upload it onto YouTube and then send that link and say, hey, I'm your guy or I'm your girl, and this is why. I think it totally makes you stand out because a lot of people aren't doing this. They put other stuff on YouTube, but this is a way for you to kind of also stand out in the crowd. So just wanted to throw that in there. The other part of this is really knowing how to get your next job, and how do you do that with social networking. And something that I added on here that I thought was just mind-blowing, and I think people don't realize this, is, for instance, 1 in 5 hiring managers conduct a background search using social media. So, for instance, your Facebook account and what comes up, right? So you definitely, and especially through the personal branding kit, I have some Facebook etiquette links on there as to do's and don'ts, and just be mindful that the pictures that you have up there, do you want your future employer to have that impression of you, right? And 1 in 10 college admission officers do the same. And so, for instance, even with school, and if you're doing career services or counseling for youth, let them know that this stuff matters. Who you are online, although it seems like this big black hole where everything goes into, it actually it never goes away. So what I did is I put this bullet up, how do you show up, and then I Googled myself, and I Googled Dee, and she's obviously way cooler than I am because she came up
Yeah.
2 million results. But I mean, maybe that's why I came up faster as well. So so yeah, definitely find out what you look like online. And actually, Dee has a couple of points, tips on, what to do to take care of that image as well.
What you can do, Facebook is notorious for college photos, and you've been tagged in a photo. Whenever you're tagged anywhere, you need to go check that out. And if you untag yourself, take your name off of that, they can't put it back on. So that can quite often protect you a little bit and protect your personal brand. There are some Google options, and I apologize. I should have researched this since the session on Wednesday, but I didn't. But there are different programs and different services that you can go in and clean up your brand if you have challenges with it. But if you just go in, say you're in a business and somebody has written something on a blog or on a post somewhere that is a little bit on the negative side, go in and reply to it. Make a response, try to rectify the issue, and in most cases that will show that you are paying attention and that you are listening.
Very good. And I've actually added this Google search cleanup profile, and it'll just give you some options on how to maintain that image, or what you can do if stuff comes up on cleaning up your web search.
Was Michael asking about the 1 in 5 and the 1 in 10? Michael, just type yes if that's what you were referring to.
Okay. Yeah, so all of that is, you can just, they're live links, so you can go through and find your sources on that. So is rebranding yourself covered? I think from our different steps, you could definitely use that to rebrand yourself. I think it would be a little bit different, and it depends on how exactly you've branded yourself in the first place. So we can definitely take that conversation. We could, send us an email, or we can talk and we can walk you through that. What I'd like to do is move on to the next one, because we do have a demo as well, and I want people to be able to see all our cool stuff. So what we've done is broken it down into steps, and the first part of the step is really conducting a people search instead of a job search. And the reason for that is you want it to be a more focused approach instead of flooding people. I like to call it terrorism, email terrorism, and spamming their inboxes. And so this is a way where you can actually get responses and get people to talk back to you. And so the other point is use search engines to track employees that are currently working there. And what's interesting is the world has really changed in the sense of social media has broken down barriers, and so now you can connect to people directly. And that is probably my biggest tip to everyone is, do your homework and find out who these people are, and then send them a professional, appropriate email saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm interested in whatever you're doing with your company and your position, and I have a couple questions. So I was telling Dee, if someone would email me and say, hey, I see that you're in workforce development. What is that like? What would you recommend I do? I would love to respond to people on that. I think it's very appropriate, and I think that all people in general are willing to help, especially with the high unemployment rates that we have now. And I know that Dee is going to mention some options with Twitter as well for conducting all these searches.
Yes, on Twitter there's a website called search.twitter.com, and it's very simple that all you have to do, you can do some very direct searches: location, age, name of company, miles from. It's very delineated as to what you can ask about. And if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for companies to cold call or to talk to about what you're selling or what you're marketing, if it's yourself or your product, you can go in there and put all of these demographics in, and then you find people that are twittering or that are in a particular area. And then if you are looking for a job, they just announced a new service on LinkedIn that you can do some advanced services with them, and it's anywhere from $19.95 to $49.95 a month. And if you're really looking hard, you might want to invest in that, because it's better than using a recruiter, because you can do some of that recruiting yourself.
And that's what's great about all of these services. They're free, and you've got this massive audience that you can tap into. And so the world is really moving away from these static, places where, you have to buy a product to be able to interact. Now you can do it on your own, yourself. Yeah, so you don't have to go to the middleman. We're really cutting out the middleman with social media. The other thing is, be proactive, as Dee was saying, with the different services, for instance, on Twitter or LinkedIn, and really capitalize on that. And I'm going to keep referring to the different guides that we've created, because they are really good, not because we've made them, but because it really makes a lot of sense, and it spells things out for people. So the other thing that I would have, and I'll have Dee talk about this, is advertising. And it's interesting. I'm sure you're reading that and thinking, oh, well, why would I take out an ad on myself?
There was a story that I heard not too long ago about a woman who wanted to work at a particular company, and I think it was in New York. She directed a Facebook ad found out that the company had a Facebook fan page, which is now a like page, which, okay, that's another story. Um, but she took this ad out, directed it to someone with a certain level in the company, and within the body of the ad, she put, I can do this, 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 and I really want to work for your company. And the guy saw the ad because it was directed to him because of the specifics that
Targeting,
she put
yeah.
in the ad that she targeted, and he hired her. So, it was maybe a $20 ad, and she got a job.
That's awesome. So it's these types of stories, and you're thinking, this is a lot of effort for trying to get a job, and this is kind of the name of the game these days, The other thing that, we'll talk about, and we've already covered blogs, but you can definitely subscribe to blogs that, for instance, post jobs, on there, or and so we'll add some of those options in the chat pods. But the last part of all of this is to really integrate both the traditional and the social media approach within your job search. So not only um, are you interacting and going to the networking events and different, maybe, you're interested in energy and you're going to these energy events to meet people physically, but also what are you doing to follow up, to maintain, to add people on your LinkedIn network and all of that. So really important to be able to integrate the two. And I don't know if Dee wants to add something else into that, but she's given some great tips as well before, so I'm sure we've
About
kind of
the
covered it.
blogging
Integration, yeah.
integration. Okay. Whenever you meet someone, if you're out physically in person, you need to ask them, do you have a LinkedIn profile? And then go back and link with them. Ask them when you're in sending the invitation, say, I met you at such and such event on such and such a day, and do it within 48 hours so that they will remember you. But if you don't do that, follow them on their blog. If you write a blog and you have a website, write your blog, link something in your blog back to your website. When you do blog, tweet that out that you just posted a new post. If you've got a Facebook fan page, make sure that you um, put something on your Facebook fan page that will bring people either to your blog or to your YouTube page or to your web page. And just make sure that you're moving between all of the mediums and getting it out there. The more you do that, the more you'll show up in Google, and the higher you'll show up on Google.
Right, and for instance, with the reminder email that I sent out, you'll notice at the end of it, and this I learned from Dee, and through this process, is I have all my information up there now. So I wrote, are you LinkedIn? I am, and I provided a link to that. I have the Let's Be Friends, where you can follow us on Facebook and, on Twitter, and then add us on Facebook. And so these are just a couple of different options for even your signature on your email, to include, and it's very easy to do. Um, so this is how you keep it all connected, right?
Oh, one more thing on
Mhm.
business cards. Make sure that you've got all of your stuff on your business card. Put your website on your return business label
Yeah.
if you're doing mailing. Just get the information out there no matter how you can.
Much. So with that said, we're going to move on over to, now that we've built our personal brand, connecting to jobs, and finding and posting jobs is very popular because of clearly the lack of jobs out there. And so although none of these suggestions are like your, sealed the deal for you, your dead set, no, money back guarantee, but there are some things out there that are really great options for you. And so, for instance, Twitter is taking the lead in creating ways for people to find new opportunities and connect with their potential employees or employers in real time. And so we've got quite a long list up there. And we're only going to highlight a couple of these because well, for the time that we have. But what I wanted to mention, for those of you that are looking at it and are thinking, what is all that up there with the @ signs? And so this is our, the penny that keeps coming back is our Twitter guide. And this is from the previous webinar. And for those of you that are not familiar with the symbols or the jargon or lingo with this Twitter stuff, I've highlighted what is a hashtag, terms to know for Twitter, and as well as a couple of other things like the tutorials, and these are all live links that you can get off of the PDF version of this, or you can go on to the social media page on Illinois WorkNet and get that as well. So just a couple of things in case you're freaking out and you're thinking this is so over my head at this point. So bring you all back to the same page. Now, with the different job board options, for instance, one that I'm highlighting is Tweet My Jobs. And what it is, it's just pretty much the largest job board in the world at the moment, and it's free. And it's very specific because you can do it through different channels and geography and type and industry. And the way it works, and this is similar to how we're tweeting our webinar right now, is you do hashtag tweet my jobs, and then you start, so you follow them, and then you start posting or you start getting all of these as a feed within your Twitter account. So you do need an account to get on there to be able to follow them. And so this is very simple, and it's more importantly free for individuals to use, especially I know a lot of our workforce professionals. This is a great way to, if you're working with companies, and especially my business service team members, because I know how hard this is to really be able to take that job and plug it out to people that you have this massive audience that you can plug it to. So it's a great option to have. Another board that I've highlighted is microjobs. And this is where it's more connecting people with networking opportunities in Twitter time. And what would you say, Dee, is Twitter time?
I'm sorry, what? Say that again. What would you say is Twitter time?
What do they, because this is very typical lingo for Twitter users, Twitter time. And so what is Twitter time?
Twitter time is the time that you're on the web and I'm not on the web, on Twitter, and how long you're using it.
Right. It's
Twitter
very
time,
fast. It's very, real time, instant. Everything is instant, from good feedback to bad feedback. It's all in Twitter time.
it's kind of like being on the radio.
Exactly.
Like I said in the previous webinar, you fall in where it goes, but you need to check it in fast time. Like a New York minute.
Right.
That's Twitter time.
Very good. And so the way this works is, for instance, recruiters are following at microjobs, and then once they submit their information, they automatically get tweets on the different, from people posting, looking for positions. And so what I've done is I've magnified what their companies do and what they want, and so you get to see all that. By the way, the links at the bottom, you can click on them if you have the PDF up on your computer, and it'll take you directly to that page. You do have to be logged in, though, to see it and follow them. The other part is, and I think this is a very cool example because at Jobs Angels is a grassroots movement helping the unemployed find jobs. And what's interesting is that if you read their profile, they started with somebody trying to help somebody find a job, and now they're building their website. So it actually even works the other way around. And this is the great advantage with these types of platforms, is that you are able to build this following, And I don't know if you want to add something to this, Dee, but it's such a great way for those even that maybe they didn't think of starting this type of nonprofit or whatever it may be, and now all of a sudden they've got this huge audience and they're going to jump on it, and do something with all these people that are interacting.
Well, one way is it's really inexpensive to start a Twitter feed or a Twitter page. It's also inexpensive to start a Facebook fan page. But if you've actually built up a following or a group that you find that it's actually going to work, you could go to a website from here. It will cost you money for the domain name and for the hosting, but you've tested the waters already to see if it's something worthwhile. Exactly. By doing Twitter and Facebook stuff.
And our last example is Twitter Hire, and this is pretty new. And you notice they already have, they're following 23 people, and they have over 2,000 followers. And it's just a free job board as well, connecting employers and recruiters with targeted job candidates in real time. So this is very interesting, and this is just another option that you can have on Twitter. So with that said, now that we've got all these connections, something I wanted to throw in there is what kind of conversations are we having now that we've made all of these different efforts to connect with people. And one of the things I have on there is search.twitter.com, which Dee has mentioned before, as well as finding partners, especially for those that are business owners. This is a way, and try to think of it in light as who can promote my business. These are all people that have a common interest that you can work together on. And then the last part is, now that you've got all this stuff started, what are you going to say? What are you going to talk about? And I think some people feel like, oh, I'm not starting a Twitter account because I have nothing to, what am I going to tweet about what I had for lunch, for instance, And that's not necessarily in the professional world what you need to be sharing with people. And so the two options I have on there are Dig, which is a bookmarking site where, you find, what's popular within whatever your interest is, as well as Google Alerts. And the way this works out is when you go in and you find the stuff that you're interested in via keyword searches, and then you get notified when the stuff comes out. So for those of you that are from the previous webinar, this is like the RSS feed example. The old way was you went out and you searched all these different websites. The new way is you subscribe to the websites and then it comes to you. Same with the Google Alerts. And so you can take all that information that you maybe, for instance, workforce development would come to me, and then I would be able to tweet that stuff out so that I'm constantly getting new content to share. And you learn a lot through this process. I think that's the most important part, right?
Right. Well, and the big thing, if you're just getting started, you can always, as you're following people, you can retweet their messages. You can send out information. If you're an organization, you can send out information about, oh, we've got this event coming up, and you can talk about pictures. You can tweet out pictures. You can tweet out just
Events,
inspirational
workshops.
messages, workshops, exactly. And then you can tweet out that you just wrote a new blog article. You can tweet out about workshops that you're participating in, like this lovely social media one today.
Yeah, tell your friends.
Yes.
And more so, the name of the game is to build traffic and then take that traffic and drive it to your personal website. And that's what social media is really about, because you have all the hard work stuff on your page, and you want to get people to see that. You want because there's no point in going through all this effort if you're not going to have people that are, taking advantage of the resources you've created or your product or your service. And so it's very important to know that the effort here is also to get people to find out, and get interested in what you're doing. So the bottom line in general is once you've built your personal brand through the different toolkits, the business cards, the resumes, the portfolios, you take advantage of the resources available and really up your game so that you can be more competitive in finding that job. And there's different options, and it's done differently these days. And I'm sure, for instance, that with our laid-off workers, for them even applying online is, if they've been working for 30 years, it's a completely different world now to search for a job than when they initially did it. And so we have to be mindful of that and really walk people through, okay, this is how it works, this is why this is relevant, I couldn't even imagine trying to explain it to my parents, for instance, if God forbid something happened and they got laid off, and say, okay, you have to do this online when I do their online banking for them, for instance, So I really get it. I get that people are on very different understanding capacities, and so Shelley, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in your chat pod so we can get that while and someone, oh, she's laughing. Yeah, see? You guys can recruit me for your online banking if anyone needs help. I can do a webinar on online banking. No, so it's definitely, people are on different levels, and we just have to encourage individuals to really advocate for themselves and promote themselves in getting, employment. Getting a job is important. So, and then the last bit is to just really be able to access all the different sources to help you. So with that said, I know we've gone on, but a little plug for the upcoming webinar are some ideas on time and network management. And For those of you that joined us for the basics of social media, we talked about all those product suites and analytics tools. So this is the start of that. So next webinar we'll highlight these tools on how to help you manage the social media network. So for instance, with Hootsuite, you can manage multiple Twitter profiles and tweets and measure your success. Ping is same, just different types of networks in that sense. And so we're actually going to give you a short demo on what that looks like. And what I wanted to add, just so you can understand the value of it, why would you want to have these types of networks? Because then you don't have to go into the individual profiles that we've encouraged you to start and manage them like that. You can actually go in and manage your followers, schedule your tweets or your posts, and then track your statistics. And for those of us that are using social media within the workplace, it's very important to measure your effort, because it's a lot of time, and you're not taking these resources. You think, okay, it's free, but it is costing you something. It's costing part of your day, and so it's important to be able to track that stuff. And so this is just an example for all of you to see kind of what that looks like, because I'm sure it is very overwhelming to think, oh my gosh, I have to update all this stuff. So with that said, Dee is going to give us a quick demo on Seesmic and what that looks like, and then we'll go on to Q&A. And so with that said, Dee is going to give a demo for us.
All right, I use Seesmic Desktop. There are multiple platforms that you can use. You can use TweetDeck. You can use Hootsuite to follow multiple streams. But I have found that I like Seesmic Desktop the best. What you're looking at right now, I think, Alana?
No, you have to share it still.
Oh,
so,
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, my computer screen. Desktop share. Okay.
Dee has been promoted from the pointer to the demo now. and she likes to inspire us with her screensaver. Make us all want to go on vacation.
You want to see that again? Anyway, as you can see on my screen, I'm following KCDEE. I'm tweeting. Well, I'm tweeting for KCDEE5. I'm tweeting for the River Valley Wib. I'm tweeting for my Creekwood Homes. Try saying that fast. I'm tweeting for myself, and then you also see my Facebook feed, and then I have a fan page for our business and for KCDEE, and then I have the stream for the hashtag #WorkNet, where I've been tweeting along, and you can see this. And then I also put up the hashtag for #TweetMyJobs, so that you can see the different jobs that are there. If we start down the top here, or start up at the top, I can pick who I want to tweet for. So if I want to send out a message and say, hi, happy Friday to everyone, it will go out under all 4 of those, the streams that I picked. And then I can go back in and change who I'm actually going to tweet for by just unchecking. I could have actually put it on our Facebook pages as well. Then this will let you do into one mesh. I have a little bit of ADD, so I can't do that multiple stuff because I have to just see one stream at a time. But what you can do is go in and look for mentions and direct messages. What's important about this is if somebody's mentioning you, you want to find out why, and you want to find out what they've said about you. So I just went into the mentions, and Elgin Community College just thanked me for tweeting about their job fair that's today. A day ago, PADS Chicago retweeted Via Works and KCDEE. So when you have a direct message, you want to get back to those direct messages as easily as rapidly as possible, because A, that protects your brand, and B, it helps you with customer service. So by using a tool like Seesmic, you are able to check these things periodically throughout the day. I can go in and check the WIB and have all these columns open. So like Illinois WorkNet thanked River Valley WIB for retweeting them a day ago. Um, and then if you know that you've taken care of these things, you can close them out and move on. So this lets you manage these tools in a very rapid-fire way and in a concise fashion. And then what I just checked on was a user list. You can make a user list and put different people that you want to group um, so to find out what they're saying in a little bit more rapid fashion. Say I've got 1,000 followers or I follow 1,000 people. I'm not going to be able to run through my regular stream on a fast pace. So this puts people into groups, and I can check what they're saying a little bit more rapidly. And as we've said before, this is kind of like coming into a radio feed where you can't really go back and check to see what's been going on. But here I can go back a little bit by just dragging down, but it's not time effective to do that all the time. And then you can save your searches here to go in and say, okay, well, what was happening with Knob? Nothing really, but you can just check these things on a regular basis. If you want to retweet a message, say I want to retweet this Elgin Area Convention and Visitors Bureau message right here about the job fair, I just hover over the avatar, and then if you notice the little arrows going back and forth, it just says retweet. I can pick who I want to retweet it from, and it goes out. If I wanted to retweet my message out of the KCDEE stream, I can do that as well. This is a real easy way to get yourself started in the Twitter feed without having to say a lot of stuff.
Dee, just to ask Tracy's question, what is the difference between Seesmic and Hootsuite, and why did you pick Seesmic over Hootsuite, for instance?
I actually use Hootsuite too. Hootsuite allows you to schedule messages. So for example, if I know that I'm going to be on vacation for a whole week, but I want to send out a message about an event coming up, I can do that. I can't, and then I can also follow my streams in Hootsuite, but it's not as pretty as Seesmic. So you can test out a bunch of different ones and see which one fits you better.
And that's why we've given so many options as well. Not so many, but we've given you 3 options. We're not promoting any of it. We just want you to know what's out there and start playing with it and see what works best for you, because you may have a completely different situation, or more time or less time, or who knows.
Right. Exactly right.
Eva Locke asked if your position is devoted 100% to marketing, and I answered on your behalf, but I'd like you to.
I market for our agency, but I am a one-person marketing department. So I not only do our social media, but I do our web page. I blog for us. I do our graphic design. I do our public speaking, or I do some of our public speaking. So I'm a busy girl, and I can't devote as much time to the social media as somebody might. But it is a quick, easy, inexpensive way to get your message out versus, say, direct mail or door-to-door sales or any of those kind of options. It is one avenue that needs to be explored.
Yeah, I'm going to switch you over now.
Okay.
Just to give you a heads up, your screen is going to change, everyone, so that you can see this. So we can just move on to the Q&A, and we will definitely get to your questions in 2 minutes. I just want to go to the next step. So as mentioned, the first step is do your personal branding. Find out who you want to be when you grow up, right? Step 2 is now that you know who you want to be, really promote yourself. Get yourself out there, get your toolkit together, and have all your ducks in a row so that you can be, so that you can have the competitive edge. And then step 3 is where you use all these different tools available to you to find these jobs and connect with individuals. And yes, you can print all of this information, and it's available on Illinois WorkNet. You click on Businesses, and then you'll see the social media logo. You can go directly on there, and all of this will be available after the webinar today. So give me a little bit of time just to put it up there, but it will be available, and I'll actually send you a follow-up email so that you know how to find it. So with that said, our next webinar is managing your social media image. And what we're going to do is just literally walk you through kind of like the preview Dee gave us today on how to start these types of accounts to manage everything that you've put together thus far, because I've encouraged you to open up all these profiles, and now I want to show you how to be able to maintain all of that. And then just have kind of a chat about what you thought of the series and if this was helpful, and get some feedback so that we can, as we're doing these types of trainings, to be able to gauge how useful they were for individuals. I know that we've gotten some really great feedback, but I want to give you the opportunity to share as well. And so with that said, I'm going to move on to the Q&A. And those of you that are on the phone could star pound to ask questions, and you can get in queue. The floor will be opened. And for those of you that are via broadcast, you can just put in the share pod as we've been communicating thus far. And so with that said, please use the polling pods to share and place your questions in the chat pod. So we'll give you a minute.
Okay, I've got a question. And you
Okay.
can raise your hand on your little,
Your little guy.
with your little guy. How many of you are tweeting already?
M.E.
Cool.
Rivera is tweeting. We've got one person. If
Okay.
you are tweeting, oh, we got more people tweeting.
WorkNet doesn't count.
Thanks, Tasha.
But what we can do, M.E. Rivera, do you want to put your Twitter handle in the chat pod?
We can follow you.
And what I'm going to do is under the live feed, I'm putting in Illinois WorkNets. I'm putting in KCDEE. And what is Rivera's Twitter handle? I'll put that in there. And then that way, if you do get to Twitter, you can find us, and we'll follow each other.
Yeah. And if you notice in the chat pods, the questions are, how comfortable are you using Twitter? And so I hope that this session has made you a little bit more comfortable. And the real deal Twitter breakdown was in the previous webinar. So if you need more, go back. They're available. They're live. It looks exactly like this, as I've mentioned. The second question is, what do you plan on doing? And the first option that we gave you is to go get a cup of coffee. And please, I encourage you to take a deep breath and go get a cup of coffee. And then the last one is, how do you plan on using social media? And a lot of this is very much on announcements and events, and something that people need to realize, especially with stats, for instance. With Twitter, a lot of the sound bites from the media come from Twitter. The media actually searches, and so it's important to communicate this stuff, because it gives you the opportunity to be showcased in a way that you maybe not planned or anticipated. So that's a good thing. Also, for those of you that are thinking, oh, I'm too old to do this, or I'm not interested, the leading demographic on Facebook is actually the baby boomers. I don't know if people know that. And so that's just some encouragement for those of you that feel like it's overwhelming. This is a really big movement, and we're doing our best to really break it down for people so they understand and so they can be proficient in what they're doing. Yeah, the state, if you're a state worker, I would talk to your CMS people and tell them to stop it and let you Facebook. Any questions? I'm going to give you another minute. And then for Manuel, if you need more information, especially about Twitter, go on to, and I've included those guides, by the way, in the file share above you. And so you just click on the Twitter guide and print it out. It's that simple, and it'll walk you through how to start a Twitter account and what to focus on and tips. And so give you some good ideas at least to get you started, and then you know where to find us if you have questions. Very good.
I just followed Manuel. I added him to my KCDEE follow stream. So if he wants to go in and check who I'm following based on me following him, he can find more people to follow, like Illinois WorkNet or Wheel Works or any of those different sites that might be useful to him as working for the state. Or wait, was he the one that works for the state?
I think so.
No, Maria does.
Maria works for the state. Yeah, so with that said, what I'm going to do is switch over to the closing contact information and just really once again thank Dee for joining us. She is such a whiz, and I've learned so much through this process, and she's really helped us out from even the advanced stuff. Oh my gosh, I had a whole breakdown with her over customizing Facebook tabs and how we do that, and we're learning all types of techie stuff. And if you want more information, and I didn't invent any of this stuff, I just make it look cool. And so you can go, these are our resources.
And you do a good job making it look cool.
Thanks. I like to keep people interested, And so
Thanks,
all
Michael.
of this stuff, thank you so much, Michael. And all this stuff is available, and you could check it out, and these are the places where you can find them. They're all live links. This is where you can find Dee, and you could follow her, just not home. Follow her on Twitter and Facebook. She's got really good information out there. I get her stuff all the time, and we're all in our, and especially, for instance, in Dee, I'm going to just switch over for a second. You can join our LinkedIn group. All of you that are workforce professionals, get on to, and we send each other messages, tips. We're trying to really encourage this community of users because we're all really slammed, I think, in general with our workloads. And so it's important for us to share information, to collaborate, to help one another out. And this is the way to do it because, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So with that said, I'd like to thank everyone for coming on and participating in this webinar. And please share your feedback if you have more questions or if you have ideas for us. We would really appreciate that. And if you have any other questions, you know where to find us. And I'm going to put Dee back on here. So with that said, I'm going to give you another minute because I don't want anyone to not be able to share. So.
Well, I appreciate being asked to help. Social media is all about paying it forward. It's what you learn you need to share, and what you know you need to share. And the more people that you can help get into the media, it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
And for those of you that have joined us in the fourth session and you weren't part of the primary sessions, I would really encourage you to go back in there and look. The first one is on creating your social media strategy as an organization, similar to this personal branding stuff, only it's for the way we break it down is as an LWIA, as an agency, and as a Illinois WorkNet partner for those of you that are part of WorkNet. And then the second part is just giving you the basics. What is social media? So for instance, Twitter is actually microblogging, right? And then and how you can go about learning, the different options. And then the third session was on social media tools. We walk you through starting these accounts and what you should focus on. And then today's webinar, is just kind of breaking it down as to jobs. And then finally on our fifth webinar, this 5-month process of learning about social media will be on managing all this stuff. So I really hope that you enjoyed yourselves. And with that, we're going to close out. So thank you so much.
Have a great